How's it going, everyone? KingBlackToof here. So, weather is seeing a drastic change, which is the perfect time to put on your sunscreen and play some more Gwent. So, I'm going to go over what has actually changed with weather and how it's played and what it does now, because it has seen some drastic changes, and I want to just make sure everyone knows what's going on with the weather. Now, I do believe all weather things have been revealed. We may see some new ones that haven't been revealed, but all the old ones have been shown. The only thing we're not sure of is clear skies yet. We don't know whether it still does the entire board, the entirety of your side of the board, or whether it only does one row. So that is going to dictate how good some of these are, and that is something which you'll have to add on to this video after you've watched it in the future. Okay, so first of all, weather has now changed from a very set everything down to one swingy mechanic. Basically, who had the final say was weather, and it was seemingly too drastic. So they've changed it from that into very much more of a wounding mechanic, which is focused on row wounding. So first thing we need to do is talk about how weather is played before we talk about what the weather cards now do. So weather, we've still got all the classic cards: Biting Frost, Impenetrable Fog, Torrential Rain. We've got some silvers as well. Some of them are no longer weathers, and we've also got the gold. Ragnarok has come back into the weather form, although weather has changed quite a bit, so it doesn't do anything like it's definitely in line with what the other weathers do now, but that is drastically different to what you might know weather as at the minute. So the first thing is that weather is mostly row specific and one side of the board specific, more importantly. So if I've got a Biting Frost, I can place it on my opponent's side of the board only. I think you can place it on your side of the board if you want. Don't know if there's any benefits to that, but you choose one side of the board to place it on, and you choose a row to place it on as well. Okay, so it's viable for all decks now. Any deck, whether you're weather or not, can take a weather card, because it'll only affect the opponent's side of the board. Now, some factions may be better at it. Some factions may have like cards which synergize well with weather. They might buff up the weather, improve it in some way. They may have more resistant cards or whatever. So, you know, every deck can play weather, because it's just like you build a deck and it's just a way of wounding your opponent if they don't have a clear skies. But that's really, really good for me anyway. I think it's really, really decent. But the next big thing is that the weather is no longer really stuck to particular rows. It's no longer tied to rows. Biting Frost, for example, you can play it on the melee, the ranged, or the siege. And the same with Fog. You can do it on the melee, ranged, or siege, and so on and so forth. You can do them all on any row now, and it only affects the opponent's side of the board if you choose. So then we need to go into what the weather actually does now, because Biting Frost, Fog, and Rain, they're not the same card anymore, but just on different rows. They actually do different things, so you have to consider which one you're going to take, which complements your deck the best, hopefully. Okay, so we're going to go through these cards now. I believe they've all been shown. There may be some new weather that hasn't been shown yet. So we won't discuss that, obviously, but let's discuss the weathers and what they do. So because this is a video about how weather works, I need to talk a little bit about how weather immunity works now. So there's been a lot of new keywords implemented in Gwent in this update, and the keyword for weather immunity is resistant. So a unit is resistant, it's got weather immunity, and this is usually followed up by a specific weather. So they're no longer resistant to all weathers. So the Wild Hunt Navigator is a card that was revealed to us, and it's a siege unit, but it has resistance to Biting Frost. So obviously Biting Frost can be played on any row now, but if you play it on the siege row with this card, it is immune to that effect. And there's a lot of cards which are resistant to certain types of weather. Okay, so just be aware when you're placing weathers down that some are resistant, and that is the keyword for weather immunity. So first, let's just remind you that clear skies, we don't know whether it does the entire board, one side of the board, or one particular row on one side of the board. So that will dictate whether these are any good or not. But first we've got Biting Frost. So this applies Biting Frost to a row of your choice on one side of the board, and at the start of each turn it damages units on the row by 1. So when I say units, it's non-gold units, it's their terminology. So that seems quite strong. I mean, the more units they've got, they all take 1 damage. It'll take 3 turns to get rid of Arrakis, which are 3 strength, and again there'll be a lot of them if the monster consumed stays the same. So this could be very, very drastic in terms of strength swing if they couldn't get rid of it. So Biting Frost seems to be like the most generic, but also, very powerful because it will just, works well if they've got a lot of units. So very, very decent, that one. And don't forget, you can place it on melee, ranged, or siege, so you can really tailor it to whatever row your opponent's playing. So it's not really ever going to be a dead card like they're playing on the siege row and I've got a frost. Not an issue anymore. Next, we've got Impenetrable Fog, and this applies Impenetrable Fog to a row of your choice on the opponent's side of the board. Although you can do your own if there's any benefits with Ancient Foglets, I'm not sure yet. But at the start of each turn, damage the highest unit or units on the row by 2. So this is kind of like Yennefer Kundra, specified to one particular row though, and it damages it by 2. So this card is going to be great to level for Geralt Igni if they can't clear Sky, because it damages units by 2 every turn, and then it will start to even out for Geralt Igni. Geralt Igni is the best because this does one particular row, which is what Geralt does, whereas other rows may still be higher, so you won't be able to scorch very well. But this one seems like a very powerful one. Definitely has the most strategy involved with leveling for Geralt Igni and stuff like that. So this one looks very strong. I mean, if you've got loads of units on the board, but one is clearly higher, this is going to lose its value a little bit as well. Next, we've got Torrential Rain, our third, basic weather card, and this applies Torrential Rain to any one of the rows as well. And at the start of the turn, it damages the lowest unit or units on the row by 2. So this is like the opposite of the Impenetrable Fog, and this one's a little bit more difficult to see a clear strategy with. Like, it could be good to remove the lowest strength unit so you get a good epidemic, possibly. The first thing that comes to my mind is that there may be low strength cards which are inherently more important to get rid of. Things like, say, Arrakis Behemoth or stuff like that, or Arrakis possibly, so you can't munch through them with Avran. Getting rid of those weaker cards might be more important than getting rid of the higher ones. But it is definitely harder to see a solid strategy with this. But again, if the opponent's playing lots of smaller units like Scoia'tael does, which are mostly 2, 3, 4, 5 strength units, you might be able to do a better job than, getting the lower ones, especially if he's got something which is also like 15. So I'd really like to see this one be experimented with, because it's not as clear cut as Impenetrable Fog, in my opinion. So I've got to talk, sadly, about a silver, used to be weather card. It's no longer a weather card. This is Marigold's Hailstorm. So this damages all units on a row by half their power, rounding down. So this is not actually a weather card anymore. It just halves the unit strength on that particular row, rounding down. Okay, so unfortunately, Marigold Hailstorm is no longer a weather card, but it seems to still be quite a decent card. Our next weather card is actually a brand new weather, and this is Skellige Storm. Now, this is not some combination or choice of frost, fog, or rain like, it has been in the past. This is actually a brand new weather. You apply Skellige Storm to a row of your choice. And Skellige Storm, at the start of each turn, damages units on the end of the row by 3, 2, 1 damage. Okay, so this is very meme-like. A lot of people love 3, 2, 1 damage, but this is not on both sides, closing in 3, 2, 1. It's only on the right-hand side where all the units spawn to. Just 3 damage to the outmost one, and then 2, and then 1. So this, I don't know if there's any strategy involved in this one. It just seemed a very powerful one. Each turn that it's not removed, it will do 6 strength wounding. And it just seems like you play it, and if not removed, it just seems quite devastating, to be honest. It definitely does. Because when something's destroyed, it moves in and it does more damage, and it just keeps going along until it is removed. Now, bear in mind, this is a silver weather card, and Clear Sky will most likely be able to remove this for free. Well, by using Clear Sky. So you probably want to try and maybe bait them out with their with the bronze ones before you try and use this. Now, bear in mind, this will do 6 damage per turn. Hey, Biting Frost could do more than this if they have more units, but this requires a minimum of 3 units. Biting Frost would need a minimum of 6 to equal this value. So you can see how this is good. And again, you can place it on any row, but it's pretty interesting. I think it could be quite devastating if they can't remove it, which might allow for some decent baiting strategy. Next, we've got White Frost. Now, this silver special card is a combination of Biting Frosts. So you apply Biting Frost to a row on the opponent's side, only on the opponent's side on this one, in this case, and the row above it. So if you choose the melee, you frost the melee and ranged. If you choose the ranged, you frost the ranged and the siege. Biting Frost, remember, at the start of each turn, damages units that are non-gold on the row by 1 each turn. So this, I mean, Biting Frost I thought was quite decent, and you can cover 2 particular rows. They have to be next to each other, though adjacent above. But I guess what really we need to know for this card is how Clear Skies work. If Clear Skies only does 1 row, which I think it will do, this is actually a nice bit of sort of pressure tempo type of thing, where you put Biting Frost on 2 rows, and you pincer them. You can't get rid of 2 weathers at the same time if Clear Sky only does 1 particular row, which I think it will do, rather than the entire board or one side of the board. So really, really nice there. But again, weather is not as drastic, so it takes time to come into effect. So you could generally just get a couple of ticks before you Clear Skies both. But you know, it does require them to have units on the melee and ranged, or ranged and siege, to be useful. So I want to talk a little bit about Aeromancy, which is no longer actually a weather card, but it's definitely going to be useful in the weather decks, which is you play a weather card from your deck, which gives you deck thinning and the weather of your choice, or you can play it from your graveyard. So if you have no more weathers in your deck, or you played a really decent weather card in round 1 and you want to replay it, you can play it from your graveyard. You lose out on the deck thinning, but you'll hopefully get the decent power that the weather can give you. Now, it doesn't specify non-gold. They generally don't do that anymore in the tooltips, but it sounds like you might be able to resurrect Ragnarok, which is actually a weather card, a gold one. So this might be able to play Ragnarok. I'm not sure. I mean, it could just be an oversight, but that is what it reads like. So let's have a look at Ragnarok, shall we? So Ragnarok is a gold weather card, and you apply Ragnarok to all rows on your opponent's side. So this is, you know, the exception where you apply it to all rows. And at the start of each turn, damage the highest unit on the row by 3. Okay, so that kind of sounds like it damages the highest unit on the row, so it actually applies it to the 3 different rows, because Ragnarok is applied to 3 different rows. So it will do 9 damage per turn, and this would indicate that Clear Skies should be able to, I don't know, I think a lot of people would argue that Clear Skies shouldn't be able to remove a gold weather card with 1 single bronze. So this might be a little bit of a argument for Clear Skies only removing 1 row, which is what I think it will do. But this will do 9 damage every turn, providing they've got a unit on each row, which is quite decent, actually. You know, this is quite a strong weather card, and yeah, I think this has become very strong now, because it's going to take them a few turns to get rid of it, and they probably won't have that many Clear Skies in their hand. Now, we haven't actually seen if there's any silver or gold Clear Sky type cards, so maybe there are cards like that. We haven't seen anything like that. So this is how weather is played. You play it on a specific row, any row that you wish, and you choose which side of the board you want to play it on, the opponent's melee, your range, the opponent's siege, etc. And they do different types of wounding, you know, Biting Frost, 1 to everything on the row that is non-gold, Impenetrable Fog, 2 to the highest unit or units, Rain, which does the lowest unit or units by 2, and, you know, the special cards which do interesting things. Now, there may be some special weather cards that we haven't seen yet, which do something different, but these are the ones that have been revealed. So I hope you understand what weather has changed to. Hopefully you start formulating some ideas of how you could use this. I think Ragnarok sounds really good. You know, it sounds like a right dangerous card to face. And I'd really like to try out Scaling Storm and stuff. So thanks for watching. Take care. See you again very soon.